Welcome back to 5 Agendas. This will be part 3. And I hope you found the last video, part 2, helpful. Afterwards, I looked at the time and trying to keep this around the 30-minute mark. I saw 51 minutes. It's like, ooh. But anyway, it was all important stuff, right? So here we go. So, MATHAY versus Seven Noahide Laws, part 3, masterpiece of deception and deviltry. And the thing is that the Seven Noahide Laws, they do not direct us to Christ. So, you can safely say that these have nothing to do with the, the 10 Commandment covenant, the 10 Commandments. They're not going to direct us to Christ, to his eternal righteousness. So here we go. The Seven Noahide Laws, in fact, holds no recognition or mention of the Sabbath, okay, or even Sunday worship, or what an Adventist calls a National Sunday Law. What would set the hairs on the back of our necks up is how the 7 ends have an emphatic death decree, an oppressive law, to Revelation 13:15. The undeniable fact of the new law of 1991 and the developments of public law proves beyond doubt the National Sunday Law will be a distraction. But one thing is true, these developments about the 7 Noahide Laws actually confirm the chilling issue of Revelation 13:15. And just so we know what that says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Even if National Sunday Law was to occur, the fact remains nothing exists in all the papal publications for an oppressive law to the keeping of Sunday. Back in the 1890s, the National Sunday Law was a real issue. However, the US Constitution in the 1890s had no challenges or breaches. So if you want to know more about this, the Sunday Law back in the 1890s, and that it was a real issue back then, and how the, survey marks have been moved, email us for a study on the end timeline resurveyed. So the US Constitution in the 1890s had no challenges or breaches, but now it does. Encyclicals issued by Papa speak of Sunday rest in the encyclicals Dies Domini, Laudato Si, or the latter of 2015, Laudato Si, speaks of legislation. Here's the links for those encyclicals, which will be in this thought paper in the description box below. Okay. But the context is in respect to the environment, Laudato Si. It must not be forgotten. None of the encyclicals make any mention of capital punishment. Capital punishment is excluded in the canon law and encyclicals. The Catholic theology always speaks of eternal damnation for failing their teachings. That has nothing to do with the reality, though, of Revelation 13:15. But what should startle any Bible student is the fact that a beastly, oppressive law exists and delivers capital punishment. a statutory punishment for transgressing any one of the 7 Noahide laws for blasphemy and idolatry. Albeit the fact is, it is an unused rule of law today in the USA. But it's on the books. It's sitting there. The 7 Noahide laws sitting quietly, waiting for enactment. Then the Sanhedrin. So here's an article where the Sanhedrin blesses Trump, calls President uphold the 7 Noahide laws. In an ancient and honored Jewish custom, the nascent Sanhedrin sent a letter to the new leader of the US, President Donald Trump, taking into account when this thought paper was written, blessing him and calling on him to take the lead in restoring America and the world. The Sanhedrin also called on the new president to acknowledge and uphold the 7 Noahide laws. Notice that the nascent Sanhedrin has a serious agenda, a highly dangerous precedent, and is a violation of the First Amendment of the US Constitution. Catch this point. While Laodicea continues to emphasize a national Sunday law, the enemy is working behind the scenes and now coming out in the open. But many have missed the transition to the soon coming work of the synagogue of Satan. Have a look at Revelation 2:9, 3:9, and their objective to convert 7 billion members. Okay. Rule of law, First Amendment, White House 2019. A full endorsement of the US Constitution, the First Amendment, specific to religious freedoms, was sustained as rule of law in the UN speech by the President of the United States on September 23rd, 2019. And there it is right there. Briefings, President Trump, United Nations event, religious freedom. So here's White House transcript. The United States is founded on the principle that our rights do not come from government. They come from God. This immortal truth is proclaimed in our Declaration of Independence and enshrined in the First Amendment of our Constitution's Bill of Rights. Our founders understood that no right is more fundamental to a peaceful, prosperous, and virtuous society than the right to follow one's religious convictions. Regrettably, the religious freedom enjoined by American citizens is rare in the world. Approximately 80% of the world's population live in countries where religious liberty is threatened, restricted, or even banned. And when I heard that number, I said, please go back and check it because it can't possibly be correct. And sadly, it was 80%. As we speak, continuing on, Jews, Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, Sikhs, Yazidis, and many other people of faith are being jailed, sanctioned, tortured, and even murdered, often at the hands of their own government, simply for expressing their deeply held religious beliefs so hard to believe. Today, with our one clear voice, the United States of America calls upon the nations of the world to end religious persecution. As president, protecting religious freedom is one of my highest priorities and always has been. Last year, our Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, hosted the first ever ministerial to advance international religious freedoms. So the above, September 23rd, by POTUS at the UN, there's a video, speech on the rule of law and religious liberty. He fully endorsed the exact wording and intention of the First Amendment of the US Constitution. The speech included the intention to protect religious freedoms globally with an international alliance. Secretary of State, October 13th, 2019. So following this September 23rd address, religious freedoms enshrined in the rule of law, confirmed by the Secretary of State. And there's a link there for Twitter. Okay, so the video in the link above is an interesting aspect in the defense of religious liberty, the rule of law. The Attorney General, October 11th. So this was October 13th, this is October 11th, same year. Barr preaches religious freedom. Full endorsement of First Amendment, the rule of law. Second term of office. This means nothing would change during the second term from 2020 to 2024. There will be no challenge by the administration under the Constitution to the adoption of a national Sunday law. The Constitution stands inviolable. All U.S. citizens know this would cause uproar in the House and Senate with Republicans to alter any aspect of the Constitution, especially the rule of law and the First Amendment. So when this administration is all about the rule of law, right, it's impossible to reconcile their emphasis upon the rule of law and messing with religious freedoms by way of a national Sunday law. Because the First Amendment and respected freedoms is an utter antipathy to a Sunday law, isn't it? Okay. But a public law exists sitting silently, waiting, just waiting, and no one can say, oh, it's not a genuine law. Could they? It's signed in every year. It is the rule of law. So here's some issues and questions, and I'll go over this with you. Okay, so why should then the Seven Noahide Laws place an imperative for awareness? Why should we be aware of it? Why should we allow it to stay on our radar? Why will the Seven Noahide Laws give much difficulty for people who would include Stump, Clayton, Ebens, who holds the Arian view, to resolve when the Seven Noahide Law defines worship, and why Trinitarians and Arians will never be targeted by the Seven Noahide Laws? So why will the Seven Noahide Laws give much difficulty for people who hold to the Arian view? Okay. Now remember, the Seven Noahide Law defines worship. And Trinitarians and Arians, why will they never be targeted by these laws? Because they're saying the exact same thing in one set of words or another. It all comes to equal the same thing. What is that? We know it's denigrating Christ's eternal deity, divinity, dignity, his eternal righteousness, his eternal imputed righteousness, him being the lamb slain from before the foundation of the world. But what is it equal? They're saying the same thing. And all equals, they're all saying there's only one God. Okay? I will say kindly, as I have said for a long time, all the Arian advocates in their current state of mind will never reconcile the Godhead issue about the Father-Son problem. It would mean they would have to come out of that present state of mind, right? to reconcile the issue of the Godhead. John 1:1, along with Revelation 4 and 5, the first angel's message, is the antidote. Why? Since they have not reasoned why, see, John 1:1 says what it says. So what does it say? There were two in the beginning. What does it not say? That there was an eternal father-son relationship, that it was literal. No three co-eternal beings, no Trinity, no one God, no begotten, birth, born, emanated, brought forth in eternity. But it's so long ago we can't comprehend it. It's this simple issue that defeats both Arians and Trinitarians. The problem is they impose their assumptions on who existed in eternal time, since the Son came forth or was begotten or emanated, as they insist. This emanated word is a bedrock term in the occult. So here's the serious aspect. If we cannot determine, read with me, let alone be capable of discerning why the Arian theory that can be traced to occult origins is deception and deviltry, it will be too late. Even though all Arians claim to completely disown the Trinity and trust in the Father and the Son. Here's the thing. If, like many, you have accepted and settled into the Arian Father-Son teaching of Adventists like Stump and Ebens, it's important for all who read the Bible to see what John 1:1-3 says and how it relates to the warning in Revelation 14. Fear God and worship him that made. 2 in beginning, John 1:1, 2 in beginning. Genesis 1, let us make man in our image. And God said, let there be light. Elohim plural. Notwithstanding, its direct association to the Shema of Deuteronomy 6, which you now know, reveals two oneness and duality. Otherwise, the only other option you have is the warning of the beast of Revelation 13. So you have a warning by God not to have anything to do with that. And then you have a warning of the beast of Revelation 13. Tells you, look, you better accept and do this, or but if you don't figure this out beforehand, look, there's going to come a time where it's too late. Why? Settle the matter. There in fact exists another wrong way to worship the beast in its image. And if you think the doctrine of God is only about denying the Trinity, this is one thing. But what the enemy has arranged is to destroy the souls of those who deny the Trinity. Why not? Thereby, a second path about the doctrine of God that Adventists have chosen to walk has what appears to be to them the total opposite. And it's an easy path to join. But again, the warning issued by the first beast in Revelation 13 won't be a problem for any of the one God, Father, Son believers. Won't be a problem. I mean, how could it? It's like they come together. All right, you're saying this, we're saying this. So-called unity and diversity. It's just that deceptive and deadly. Sister White trembled for the people she never had or gave cause to tremble about the National Sunday Law. Oh, there's a new thought. So here's God's matrix versus the Luciferian. And we're going to be talking about that more as we go forward. The Luciferian matrix. And until recently, that was a new term for me. God never made the doctrine of God deadly and deceptive. He left us plain, straightforward evidence, and the facts of John 1:1-3 are easy and uncomplicated. You want to understand the truth about the Godhead? It's simple. In beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That means, contrary to the JWs, he's not a little g. Neither is there a father-son relationship, or three co-eternal, or just one God revealed there, or three, or however many you want to go up to. It doesn't say that his sonship was literal. It doesn't say that he was brought forth, emanated, begotten, birthed at some point in eternity. The Word was continuous action in past time. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. This is the hallmark of the great godliness of the Elohim. Jesus said the two of them both were God and existed anarche. In beginning, John never brought about a father-son motive in the text. And he couldn't, because it wasn't there. The fact is, see, it's just not there. This is the entire problem. On this point, if God made it so plain and clear, then what was it that blurred the evidence he provided? God can never be faulted for making anything complicated that a child could not grasp. It's one thing to be familiar somewhat to the heresy of the Trinity or any variations thereof, and that must be banished, for it is an abhorrent teaching. That was the easy part. But when it comes to the deception of the Arian father-son teaching concerning the doctrine of God, which is the Arian teaching of Adventists like Stump and Ebens, one is actually confronted with what the omega of deadly heresies is about. So if you want to understand what the omega of deadly heresies is all about, find out what Stump, Clayton, and Ebens are teaching. And then get as far away from that as you can and align your faith with John 1:1, the Bible and the Bible only. It's just that simple. And specifically, it's what Sister White warned, and she trembled. It's not a Sunday law. It's not a Sunday law. So, but the Seven Noahide Laws concern a worship issue of idolatry and blasphemy, and that's regarding this one God, Arian, Trinitarian, monotheism issue, and capital punishment and decapitation. So what law should actually be on Adventisms separated, whether in or out, or anyone else? What should be on their radar? The Seven Noahide Laws. And getting your understanding of the Godhead correct. Sunday law may come and go. Okay. And it may cause, some problem. But it's not going to be the big issue. Because the Sunday law is not about the issue of the Godhead and the omega of deadly heresies. The issue of this theory, the Arian Gnostic emanation or begotten in eternity routine of the Father-Son Arian teaching, bolstered by the personification of Proverbs 8, which was not Proverbs 8 is not talking about the Godhead. It's a metaphor for wisdom, which in their only defense of the eternal past, and they try to use Proverbs 8, was I brought forth. This assumption overrules what John stated in John 1:1-3. And see, if you take their interpretation of Proverbs 8 and John 1:1, sorry, there's an absolute conflicting, issue that we have there, and the Bible can't conflict and, go against itself. In fact, oddly, it's the same belief of who is God as the JWs and other churches. Even worse, this Arian teaching holds its origin and can be traced back to the secret doctrine of the occult. The connection of this Father-Son teaching is a sister teaching of the Triune Trinity, and it's found in the Catechism. So someone that's trying to get as far away as they can from the Triune Trinity, can basically do a 360 and come back to it with this Father-Son teaching. There's the Catechism right there. The Doctrine of God versus the reality of the Seven Noahide Laws. While the Seven Noahide Laws has no mention of the Sabbath, the transition for our attention from the National Sunday Law to the rule of law, foreseen by Micah and Isaiah, can be grasped from the Bible in light of recent developments of public law. So we can understand what this is saying, right? Based on recent developments. And our attention has to be transitioned from this National Sunday Law to the 7 NLs. Further, if you wish to be unpleasantly surprised, this fact above can be determined from another Millerite error that was absorbed into Adventism. This specifically concerns the interpretation of the deadly wound and the identification of the first beast in Revelation 13. What does that mean? Just simply, so this deadly wound, Revelation 13, it's been interpreted as already happening in the past, but it hasn't, because of what the man in linen said, that the 1290 goes to 1844, and that 1260 is within the time span of the 1290. Okay, that happened from 554 to 1814, plus the 30 additional years to 1844. So we can't have a deadly wound in 1798, with the 1260 coming before, when Revelation 13 says the 1260 comes after. So what is the warning? There's going to be a apotelismatic 1260, 3.5 years, 42 months. Just ahead of us. At some point, we don't know yet. But wouldn't you rather be prepared for it? We have beloved friends or relatives who have left Adventism, and some who even have left God. They would be shocked to realize, when this error is corrected, as to what this transition in Revelation 13 would mean to them. Few are interested to set aside their view on the revelation of God from the Bible, let alone even examine why the Arian teaching is in fact deadly. The JWs sorted things out by changing the Greek in their New World Translation from John 1:1-3. And I have a copy here. Grab it for you, just so you can see. Okay. John 1:1. There it is. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was a little g, God. A very small change, just one letter in the first verse changes the entire meaning. That one little word. It's the little letter A. The doctrine of God is the warning about worship presented by the first angel. Today, the two main deceptions, Trinity and the Arian Father, Son, begotten or emanated in eternity, are a subtle but tremendous attack on the first angel. Why? Because the first angel is saying two in beginning, and that John 1:1 says that there was no Father, this eternal Father, Son. There were two equal eternal fathers. Both emphasize one God, whether it's the Trinity or the Arian Father, Son, because he's just the begotten Son. He was birthed or brought forth, and so basically you would have, they're saying is in beginning there was only one, when John 1:1 saying the Word was also in the beginning. Both emphasize one God. The Shema said one, Echad. But how do you know the false from the true Shema? The false is saying one, the true is saying oneness and duality, but there are two. It is important to understand, and there's another thought paper that you can look up and see there. So why one God? The one God teaching of both the Trinity and the Arian will trigger acceptance of the Seven Noahide Laws under the regime of the first and second beasts of Revelation 13, under the rule of law. I mean, if you were saying the exact same thing as this beast power, and there was no, attack against you, you're spared, and that would be kind of comforting. But that's not what we want. The synagogue of Satan will appeal to the Bible. Oh, the synagogue of Satan? So they're gonna be like, what? Look, the Shema. One God. And that's where you need to be standing and saying, hold on. The Shema reveals that there is a oneness in duality. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God's, Elohim, plural. Take him to John 1:1. But the synagogue of Satan is going to appeal to that counterfeit Shema and even open the Bible and read it. And a lot of people are going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, it does say that. There's only one God, they're going to say. But worse, like many that believe the Stump, Ebens, Clayton, Arian view of the doctrine of God, I can promise you today, you will never be exposed to any accusations of blasphemy by the proponents of the Seven Noahide Laws. Because why? The Father, Son, and Eternity teaching, like its sister teaching, the Trinity, both affirm there is one God. And this fact cannot be disproven. Now, this exposes the true and false aspects of what the Shema in Deuteronomy 6 is saying. But does the Shema say one God? Revelation 14:7, saying with a loud voice, fear God, one, and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment has come, and worship him that made. That's two. So there you have it. Hopefully that helps. And stay tuned for the next part. God bless.